Hello Math 8 students, today is Thursday, April 14th, and we are going to finish up our lesson, our unit on Pythagorean theorem. Today we're going to be doing what happens when the Pythagorean theorem is a side that we don't know, it's not the hypotenuse. So let's start with a warm-up. Go ahead and use these three side lengths to determine, is this a right triangle? So I'm going to order these from least to greatest. 24 is going to be my A. 135 is going to be my B, and 143 is going to be my C because that's the longest side. Now these are pretty big numbers, so I'm going to use my calculator to figure out the squares of each. And so this is 576. Wow, this is a big number. 18,225. And 20,449. So I'm looking, I'm wondering, I'm not thinking that this is going to add up to be 20,449 just because this is a big number here and this is only half of 1,000. But I'm going to add those anyway. 18,225 plus 576, and that only gives me 18,801. So that is not equal to 20,449. So that is not a right triangle. I don't even know if that's an other kind of triangle. That's a pretty big separation. Okay, Math 8 students. So we first learned to use the Pythagorean theorem by using squares through Desmos. One of the homework problems that day was missing a leg instead of a hypotenuse. How did you solve? So here's our hypotenuse, and here are our two legs. And so if we go back and we think about this, okay, so I know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I don't know what that a squared is, this one. But I did know that the b squared was 16, and I did know that the c squared was 20. So in order to solve this, we need to subtract 16 from both sides in order to get the a squared by itself. We can't take the square root until we have the a by itself. And then once we have a squared equals 4, then and only then can we square root it. Because remember, square rooting is the inverse of taking the square of a number. So the area of that square was 4 units, I was going to say centimeters, 4 units squared. And the side length is 2 units. So we did that on our worksheet, our homework from, I think our Desmos activity from Tuesday. So let's use that same process to find without using the squares. So I will encourage you always to first start by highlighting the hypotenuse. So in this case, it looks like the hypotenuse is 8. So that means the two legs are going to be the two sides that make up the 90-degree angle. And I always like to identify which one is my A, which one is my B, and which one is my C. So I don't know if 3 is going to be A or B. I'm just going to say 3 is A. It does not matter because we definitely know that C is 8. And then we can take those numbers and use the Pythagorean theorem and do what we just did on the last problem. So we have 3 squared. The only difference is we actually have to square these, and then we'll solve for B. So 3 squared is 9, and 8 squared is 64. What if accidentally you said that the B was 3? Would you get the same answer if you were solving for A? Yes. A and B are interchangeable. You can move those two around or use them as different legs. As long as the longest side, the C, the side opposite the hypotenuse, is by itself on the right side of the equation, then you're fine. But I do need to get that 9 out of the left side so that I can solve for B. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And I'm going to get b squared equals, what is that? It's 55. Now, right away, I think that the square root of b is not going to be a perfect square, and that's okay. That is okay. Because I know that it's probably going to be somewhere between 7 and 8. So I'm going to use my calculator to figure that out. And it's about 7.4. So I'm just going to say that b is approximately 7.4. Now, does that answer make sense? Well, we're saying that this side would be 7.4. It does make sense because it's smaller than the hypotenuse, which was 8. So we were good to go. All right, Math 8 students, so go ahead and give the next problem a you try. Pause this video, and then we will come back together and I will go through it and solve with you. Just move those over. Pause that video. So highlight these. Highlight the hypotenuse. I'm going to say A is unknown. I'm going to make B 17. If you made A 17, that's perfectly okay. And I'm going to do A squared plus 17 squared equals 20 squared. A squared plus 289 equals 400. I'm going to subtract 4. No. Subtract 289 from both sides and get A squared equals 111. And that is very close to being a perfect square, but it is not a perfect square. It's a little bit less than 11. So yes, it is 10.5. So A is approximately 10.5, which makes sense because it is smaller than the hypotenuse, which was 20. Okay, Math 8 students, so let's look at this challenge problem. So we have, in fact, a three-dimensional triangle, and that three-dimensional triangle is inside, or is a three-dimensional shape with a triangle inside, and we are trying to find the length of FD. Okay, so FD goes from here to here. So I do in fact see a triangle here. I see this triangle there, and so this triangle I'm going to draw over here. And this is F, this is B, this is D. So for you wondering where that kind of came from. Now, I can see that this side here, GC is 6. So I'm going to say that this side is 6, because those are both from the top to the bottom 6. It looks like the bottom has a triangle also. And it looks like that triangle is here along the bottom. And it looks like this side is 3, this side is 4. And this side is BD. So we need to find this side. Now, we've been doing this a couple days, Math 8 students. So hopefully you should know right away that that hypotenuse is 5. Because 3 squared plus 4 squared is actually 5 squared, because 9 plus 16 equals 25. So if we do the math really fast, C is 5. So this side here is actually 5. So meaning that this side on this triangle is also 5. So we had to do a little bit of extra math. We had to do one Pythagorean theorem before we could do the second Pythagorean theorem. So now that we know the two legs that make up this right triangle, can we find the length of FD? I think we can. Go ahead, Math 8 students. You pause this video and finish that for me. I will work it out over here and then come back over and see if you get the same solution. so it looks like once I do the math, I'm going to have to approximate my answer because it was between 7 and 8, really close to 8 actually. And it looks like the length of FD is about 7.8 centimeters based on the calculations we did. All right, Math 8 students, go ahead and check your playlist for tonight's homework.